Clare and Andy in the morning. Right, do we want to actually start recording some content?
Content, yeah.
Content. This isn't just content. This is badly thrown together, amateurish content by at least one person who has no idea what he's doing.
And I'm also here.
Clare and Andy in the morning. Episode 7. Things.
And here we are. Hello. Hello, Claire.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It seems like it's been forever since we did one of these. I think it was probably 2018 or 2019 when we did our first one.
Really? Because I think it was 2020.
Well, whatever. Either way, so Clare and Andy in the morning. It's good to be doing them again, actually. I wish I still had my mug. I used to have a mug with Clare and Andy in the morning on it, but it had a poor quality interaction with a flaw.
Did it go the way of all mugs?
It went the way of all mugs, sadly. It's now, I think it might even be... No, it got so badly broken that I had to just chuck it. I couldn't even save it as a pen container. Anyway, I'm Andy Raff. I am the laughably lead writer for Profound Decisions for Empire Alarm. I'm also I've added this, by the way, to my CV. I'm also our social media coordinator.
Are you?
Yes. What that consists of, for those of you who don't know what a social media coordinator does, is that I'm responsible for occasionally putting things on Facebook and for linking cooler looking photos to Claire to put on Instagram. And that's what I do. I'm also one part of Clare and Andy in the morning. The other part of Clare and Andy in the morning is...
Me. I'm Claire Evans. I'm head of the player support team. And nobody really knows what that means, and that's the way I like it.
Anyway, yes, so we are recording this bright and early in the morning of Sunday. It is the downtime deadline tonight at about midnight. This video will almost certainly have gone up after that deadline, so I don't know why I'm even mentioning it. And what we're going to do is we're going to chat about, what about events, I guess. I was thinking probably about event 3, but if anything jumps up that we've done at a previous event this year, it's really good to be back. It's good to be back.
It's amazing to be back, isn't it? And it's suspicious how easy it's been to slip back into them as well.
Yes, we've had probably 3 of our best events.
It feels like that, genuinely.
Fun. And in terms of ease, I mean, there's been some stresses, definitely, but for the most part, yeah, it's felt like we've not had a 2-year gap. We're going to talk about 3 cool things that happened at the last event, and we're going to alternate, and we're going to give different perspectives, because my role means that I spend most of my time on the out of character side of the hedge, and Claire's role means that she spends most of her time on the in character side of the hedge, dressed as some kind of suak.
Technically, I'm a suak.
So do you want to go first with a cool thing from the last event?
Yeah, well, you know what I'm going to say, because it's the same thing I always say after events. It's new players.
Yeah, okay. Tell us about the new players, Claire, and what's cool about them. You've got to fill about 5 minutes of airtime.
So what's especially cool about them, right, is new players at their second event, when technically they're not new players, they're LARPers. But I always really like it when I recognise people from an event at the next event. And usually they've just thrown themselves into it, found something crazy to do and embracing it full throttle. And it's just really good.
When do you run the new player meetings?
We now run 3 new player meetings.
Wow.
On Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a far cry from when we used to go upstairs in the tavern and talk to about 6 people.
That is going back a while, though, to back when the tavern had an upstairs.
I reckon that across the 3 new player meetings that I run on Fridays, we saw about 280 of our new players at the event.
Wow.
I know that's bonkers numbers. And the LGBTQ meetings seem to go off well. The new player skirmish. I really should thank all the people who volunteer their time to run the new player sessions we run on Fridays, because I think they're a great asset to the game.
So it's a collaborative effort, isn't it? Some of it is crew, some of it is players volunteering, and some of it is people. I think one of our refs, I think Autumn, runs a herb seminar.
Introduction to Apothecary. And it's all about, answering questions and showing new players where the levers are and encouraging them to get involved in the game, I understand. Yeah. And apart from the new player skirmish, any of our players can go to them. So if you've changed character and are thinking of something different, you can go and look at them as well. But I think they're a really good thing that we run. And it's a chance for our new players to see other new players and recognise faces later in the game. Yeah, I'm really pleased and really proud of what we're doing there.
Yeah.
I know that basically it's all an elaborate excuse for Tim Baker to teach fighting retreats.
There are worse ways to spend your Friday at an event. Best bit? Actual best bit? Just best moment?
We had a new player at Event 2 who had such a good time, he phoned his wife and she came down for the Saturday of Event 2, which is brilliant. And I bumped into her on Saturday morning, and I believe she's ditched his group to go and join the Koan.
Brilliant. So mine, my first one, I spend most of my time on the other side of the hedge, but there's a couple of things where I creep over through one of the hidden gates. I creep through that and I go and I stand behind a pillar at the Regio and I shout, doing my best Brian Blessed Murloc impression. And I play Leviathan. I play the voice of Leviathan. And there's a ritual called Swim Leviathan's Depths that lets you ask an Eternal, who is a giant space whale that we will never be able to properly fizz rep, questions. Anyway, the weather being nice on Sunday, me having finished my actual work, I decided to go out and sit next to the ref tent there and watch a couple of rituals because it was nice weather and I don't get to see them very often. And anyway, there were some nice rituals. But just before I was ready to do my first Leviathan, I could see, I think it was the Song of Taniki from Wintermarch, just sort of waiting in the wings. A bunch of marchers came into the Regio, and one of them was wearing a ridiculous. Oh man, I really hope this was a ridiculous wig. And another one of them had a mask that they had in character clearly made out of a piece of sack. And I thought to myself, oh man, I really hope these are going to turn out to be mummers. And they did turn out to be mummers, because mummers nearly didn't make the cut. They're basically wizards who do dramaturgy, but they do it in that kind of summer fair kind of way, and it's all very improvised and thrown together, and it's meant to be all a little bit amateur and crowd pleasing. And they did one of the nicest rituals I've ever seen, which was the story of how Matilda Fisher killed all the people in Bragisland and had nobody to work the fields, and so needed a magic potion to make the crops grow, and an old crone who was as wise as she was old gave her a potion that poisoned her, and she fell over, and everybody cheered because the evil Matilda Fisher had been defeated. And I thought that was just a beautiful piece of the brief come to life. That was also politics and current affairs and stuff, and then they followed it up with the story of the founding of their village. And I don't know what ritual they were casting with the founding of the story of the founding of their village, but it involved a bridge with a goat on it who kept pushing people into the river because they wanted to go across the river to found their town, their village, their farm, what have you, and they couldn't get across until the final heroic figure. So it basically says, I think that bridge belongs to the goat, and so we're going to build our village here on this side of the river. And it was just, I laughed so much at that, and I felt good, because what I thought was a piece of the brief that I wasn't sure how people were engaging with it was just brought to life so effectively by that group of players. I went and had a look at the database, see if I could track down who it was so I could name check them specifically. But I discovered that the ritual, I'm pretty sure they were casting, had been cast 53 times during the event, and so couldn't use my limited database to track it down exactly. I've got 3 candidates, but I don't know which one it was. But if it was you helped make my event special, just so you know.
Fantastic. That sort of stuff where people, because we don't judge the role-playing rituals and you can do what you want, I think that's been a really good move, because the level of diversity and imagination in rituals is just great. Yeah. Did you hear anything from the Marchers Summer Fair?
No, what's this?
They had their Summer Fair on Saturday, and the Marchers campus laid out in a big straight line, so there were stalls and things going on all the way up, including something where you had to race somebody to pull a nail out of a log and things like that. And I ended up walking through it, and it was every church faith my mother ever went to made me go to. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Great, I'm really pleased about that. One of the things that we've been very keen on pushing this year, I think, has been the encounter festivals for the nations. and trying to encourage people to think about them a little bit more in detail and maybe make a couple of new ones. I think it was the League Masked Ball this event as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of feedback from John and Nick about it. I haven't had a great deal yet, but we haven't had a proper meeting yet.
Oh, you mean John and Nick, the League Aggregors who were at the event?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So what is your second thing that was great about the events? You can't use any of that stuff we just talked about.
The Sentinel Gate.
Okay, tell me about the Sentinel Gate. You do this all the time, but tell me about the Sentinel Gate specifically for this event.
What, I tell you about the Sentinel Gate?
Yeah, you always say, oh, the opening of the Sentinel Gate is really cool.
Because it's really fantastic. Have you seen it?
I'm at my desk finishing off a bunch of paperwork and last-minute writing that he's doing from the night before.
We should kidnap you out to see it.
It would be nice.
Because then you get to see some of the magic we've made.
I get to see the photos, which I understand, which are probably just as good as seeing it.
Oh, almost exactly the same.
So what was it? What was it this time?
So it's always really good. I always really enjoy it. But on Sunday, I will admit I was very tired and a little bit over emotional about things. But the Aggregors do a ceremony to open it, which is all right. You know, they do fine. They try hard, bless them. And then the nations pour through in their nation groups. And one of the things I really like is it's always really obvious what nation is going through, because everybody just looks so good and so nationally tired. But some people were a bit slow getting to the gate because they'd arrived a bit late. We did slow down with weapons check. And there's always a crowd around the gate who cheer everybody going through it. And that crowd stayed and cheered every single person who went through.
Oh, man.
And the cheers for like the one person going through on their own were as loud as the cheers for the nations going through. And it was just beautiful. It really was.
Nice. Oh, man.
Oh, I'm a little bit.
You're touched, yes. You're demonstrating.
I genuinely am.
Yeah, human emotions. I'm going to talk about something on the Sunday Gate which I didn't witness myself, but which I was very aware of happening and the repercussions of it. So, without going into too much detail, I understand that in character, the Imperial Orc Nation boycotted the second battle.
Yes.
They were meant to fight on it, and instead only a very, very tiny number, like 4 or 5 of them, actually went on the battle, because in character they were protesting against the Empire's alliance with the Thule. And when we heard that, there was a little bit of a high-fiving back in the box, because it meant that they valued, we felt that it meant that they valued their in-character consistency and the politics of the game and their identity as a nation and a group of players more than they did going through the Sentinel Gate and hitting people with rubber swords. And there's been a load of other repercussions from it. It's created a huge amount of game on the field, as I understand it. All of the things that I type up, like the Synod judgments, are referencing it and talking about it and how it happened. It's something I've seen a lot of people speaking about online, and it's also incidentally meant, because as I'm sure you're aware, the rule is that if you play a battle, you have to monster a battle.
This was so sweet.
But the Imperial Orcs had done their monstering, but then didn't play. And so normally we have, Graham does a ratio where he works out what percentage of the people who played have monstered. And it turns out that the Imperial Orc ratio is the highest we've ever had at 850%. 850%
really sweet about
than...
it. What was really sweet about it, though, was they came and checked that it was all right that they didn't play, having monstered one. Yeah, they were all down at the gate, making sure that everybody knew they weren't going.
The picket line, yes, I'd heard about this as well.
Yeah.
And it's great. It is great that players do that kind of thing. And I love the fact that is... That's not us. It's not. Well, it is kind of plot, but it's not plot. We haven't said to the Imperial Orcs, you should protest and not go on this battle. All we've done is set up a scenario, and the players have reacted to it in character. And there's all sorts of complexities around it, as I understand it. I have a very surface view, given we can only really see the outcomes, not what's led to them. But that made me really happy when I heard about it, and the picket line. Yeah.
And with more passive aggressive placards.
Yes. So what is your third thing from the event?
No, we're on you. You're second.
I just did my second.
I was your second. Yeah, but you piggybacked my sense.
I did. I was using timing. I skipped my third point to my second point. So I've written my points down because I am very organised. So that was actually my third point, but because you'd done the Sentinel Gate, I skipped it to my second. So now you have to do your third. So do your third.
My third is the civil service.
Okay.
How many judgments did the Synod process this event?
165.
Yeah. That's an incredible amount of work. That's a huge amount of work. And they are just so dedicated and work so hard. And all of the civil servants, not just the Synod ones. And I just think they're fantastic. There's never a drama with them. They just get on and do it. I just think they're brilliant. And nothing would run as smoothly as it did if it wasn't for them. They're fantastic. They really are.
Yeah. Best bit? Best moment?
At the civil service?
Yeah.
I went to Senate twice.
Twice?
Well, actually, technically twice and a bit, but I had to leave the third one to do something.
Were you in the viewing gallery?
No, I was hiding behind the throne.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm a civil servant. I'm allowed to be in there. Obviously, the best moment was when the crown got taken out of the box.
Oh, yes, I heard about this. We had Sabrina from Plot Production, who helps do the encounter tents, with her whole family on a Facebook messenger group, translating the speech that Renner had written into Swedish. And it took forever because Renner had written a lovely poetic piece of English, which didn't work in Swedish. And then obviously Sabrina brought the crown down and gave the speech in fluent Swedish because obviously
it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Nobody really knew what was going on. And then she reached into a box and produced the crown.
Yeah, it's really nice as a combination to that whole plotline. I'm really pleased with it. I
will point out that they all looked really pleased, but I don't think anyone of them knew what she'd actually said.
No. Which was the whole point of doing that. We accompanied her with a translator, and afterwards, Serena was saying that the hardest part of that entire encounter was pretending she didn't know what people were saying until it had been translated for her. And that was quite fun. My third one is, and again, it's like we've planned this, which we really haven't. It's plot production. We have a team of people, and between them, they are responsible for the special effects, building props at the event, making sure we've got the props and costumes we need, and running the encounter tents, which are basically tents that the team turns into environments to run small encounters in. So, for example, this time round there was a meeting with the Eternal Sadoga, which took place in a cave that had an obstacle course to get into it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you had to sort of clamber up something and then come through, and they had the facility to make to fill the little tunnel you had to crawl through with smoke, for example. And that was really interesting.
They made you go in that way too.
I got halfway up the pallet slope and then just sort of stuck there like a frog that somebody has thrown at a wall, and then I slid back down again and they let me come in round the back. But anyway, there were two things about plot production that really stood out for me. One was the boat. For most of Saturday we had a boat, and it was used by all sorts of different plot writers to create different effects. So I had an encounter in which a couple of players, like 2-3 players, were meeting some people on an ice floe out in the middle of nowhere, or we had another one where one of our plot writers had written...
I heard about that one last night.
Yes. Another one where one of our plot writers had written a trip to a sort of boat that had sunk, but in such a way that there was an air bubble. It's astonishing how many boats in the Empire, as of last event, sink in places where there are bubbles. But one of our plot writers, John Fry, did what essentially amounts to a holodeck episode in which the Eternal Azoth sold a unique experience to people without telling them what it was. And we had, as I understand it, 8 players, and they were brought through into this encounter tent where they were on a boat that was sinking. And I was lucky enough to actually have a look at it before they went in. And it's this really effective, I felt anyway, really effective sort of prow of a boat with a wheel and sails and lamps hanging down, and they've got blue lighting on it because it's meant to be at night. And the players are thrown into this and told essentially that there's only room for 4 of them in the lifeboat, and it's left very ambiguous as to whether this is going to kill them or not, because it's not clear exactly what Azoth is doing. But the bit that really made it special for me was fog. It was foggy, because they'd sort of rigged up a water machine and a smoke machine or something. I genuinely don't know how it was done. And it was just producing fog. And you know how smoke in an encounter tent can be a right pain in the backside when it comes to breathing, particularly if you... Anyway, this wasn't, because it was cool mist, basically, in the air. It was just so good. And I really enjoyed that. I love it when I get to see these things for a few moments, because normally I'm hiding behind a piece of furniture in an encounter tent and shouting, which is 90% of my NPC rolls at the moment. But it was that, and
I did hear you being Leviathan at one point.
That is less hidden behind things, but I did do...
You are hiding behind furniture, but it's always entertaining.
I did our Halligan last event, which was maybe because the mic broke at the last moment. I was stood behind a curtain shouting, while another member of crew was having to try and predict how angry the giant spider monster was, because they were in the giant spider costume. But the other thing that prop production did, and it's a small thing, we had a quest involving some hives, full of dangerous bee type things. And I had said to them, it's a real shame that there's no way to tell easily if one of these hives has been destroyed, and they took that as a personal challenge. And so what they did was they built the hives, and they were hollow, and they filled them with smoke. So if they were pushed over, all the smoke rushed out, creating a cloud of smoke in there, so you could tell they'd been broken. And you could even pretend they were killer bees if you really wanted to. And it's stuff like that. It's the ability to go to members of our crew like that. And we do it to our plot writers as well, and say, I know it's only an hour before we need it, but can we have a thing? And as often as not, they'll say, yes, you can have that thing.
Yeah.
And then they deliver it, like bone hives that you can tell have been pushed over.
That's clever. That's very clever.
That was my third thing.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to next event?
So, what am I looking forward to next event? It's really hard, because I can't believe how well this year's gone. I genuinely can't. It's like the words "biggest event ever" have lost all meaning.
Well, every event this year has been well, not quite, but every event this year has certainly been a bigger event. I think last event was our biggest event ever.
Yeah, we're going to have to stop using those words, because they've...
I was speaking to Tom Hancock's, who is kind of our battle skirmish wrangler, and he was pointing out that there were more people on the battles this event than were at some of our events in the first year or two.
It's really exciting, though, because it feels like we're, I don't know, achieving something at the moment. You know? I'm not sure what that thing is, but it feels like we're...
It's worrying, isn't it? Well, I assume we're doing something right, but not knowing exactly what it is you're doing right creates that vague fear that you might stop doing it and it will all be disastrous. But I think it's the new player meetings. I think the fact that you put so much effort into making, in many cases, people who've never live role-played before, and in some cases, people who've never role-played before, of helping them get their head round the idea of what is going to happen at the event.
Yeah, we're learning so much more about how we present things to people new to LARP as well. Like, it's ridiculous that we didn't start running the new player skirmish years ago. Because most of us haven't hit somebody with a sword. And turns out that could be something that makes you a bit anxious if you haven't done it ever. Or been hit by a sword.
Yes, quite. I imagine it is quite intimidating. I think that is... What am I looking forward to next event? Winds of War. I know the rough shape of what's happening, but until midnight tonight, I don't find out exactly what's going on, because we don't know how many military units have supported things and things like that. So tomorrow I find out exactly what's happened. But I think the shape of the war campaign is looking quite interesting for this event, without giving any spoilers away. So I'm quite looking forward to writing the Winds of War.
Interesting is always the word you want to describe that.
Yes, quite. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what some of the outcomes are once we slot all the numbers in. So
conservatively, how many fronts has the Empire got now?
It's 2 still. The west and the east. It's still fighting the Jotun and the Druge. I cannot confirm or deny whether any new fronts have opened up. But there's also the other downtime actions that was a lot of politics about at the event, as I understand it. We've got the Chaloncio Road and the Scallon Raid. Chaloncio Raid and the Scallon Raid, which might end up as Winds of War because they're pretty combaty. But anyway, I have wittered on enough. You have, as usual, only got a word in edgeways occasionally.
I'm feeling really good about this. I came out of last event feeling good straight away.
Yeah.
Usually I want a couple of days to get some distance on it, but yeah, I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, I came out feeling pretty upbeat, which is always nice when that happens. So, we should do another one of these before the event if we can get it in. I don't know what exactly. We could talk about Winds of War, Winds of Fortune again. It's been a while since we've done that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Any other idea we have?
Yes, we should have a chat. If you've got any ideas, if you have any ideas about what we should be talking about, why not mention them in the comments below? Either on YouTube, where this is going to end up, or on Facebook. And while you're there, you could click like and subscribe, and perhaps even click the bell, because honestly, we update this YouTube account so rarely. I'm going to talk about Empire Audio. Too late now. We'll have to do that next time. Remind me next time that we should start off by talking about Empire Audio and how really cool their audio stuff is. And also,
people should go and listen to the dedicated team of volunteers who record our Winds of War, Winds of Fortune and other stuff as audio files.
I got a bit of a telling off from one of them about using a word that was difficult to pronounce. So now I am. If you've got any ideas for any other words that are difficult to pronounce, put them in the comments below. Just engage, goddamn you. And we could also talk about all the other people who are doing actual grown-up sort of professional podcasts like LARP Noobs or Orc Planet or Hefty Yeti and people like that.
Ollie and I recorded a podcast on Thursday at the event, because that's the people we are now.
Okay.
With Dave from LARP Noobs.
All right, excellent. You will have to put a link to that in the comments below. I don't know. It sounds like a comments below job. Anyway, I'm going to go and I'm going to try and edit this together and get it up tonight because of that whole reminder about the downtime deadline. So I'm going to raise not my Clare and Andy in the Morning Cup. I'm going to have to get a new Clare and Andy in the Morning Cup. And cross my fingers that this has successfully recorded and is audible. And I will leave us with the out sting and then the hypno hog at the end. Cheers, Claire. I will see you in a few weeks. Bye.